Barklord, master of your domain, thank you for your reply. Thank you for your challenge, calling me on my bullshit. Often, I say something and there'll be a big old hole, and I'm like, I've long since ceased to worry about these holes. Oh, somebody will attack me on the hole, and I have since begun to hope they would. But this isn't one of them. But first, yes, I am somewhat casting aspersions in your general direction as a Plato as a Plato enthusiast, but not necessarily, because it depends on what you're enthused about. For example, if you love Plato, he created a work of art. It's beautiful. It attracts mathematicians and lovers of classical music for its pure lines and its forms, and it's lovely. I think the main problem with it is that he gave the form some sort of metaphysical reality, and primary at that. Okay, now you say he then recanted that. I assume you mean in Parmenides, um, but that's disputable. But at any rate, I am criticizing the Plato of this other bulk of work and of forms, and and so that more than the person. If you want to follow the person as an individual of history, a very very important and person with some beautiful ideas, not necessarily beautiful personal story from what we know. I won't get into that. But anyway, one of my best philosophical friends from high school, I ended up getting a PhD in cognitive science, turned me on to cognitive science. He is a big fan of Plato, and it's because he has this beautiful mind. So I'm not insulting people that are attracted to Plato, especially as a figure who created art. It's kind of like if you look at him as an artist, great artists go through usually multiple stages of their thought, right? And if I didn't like one stage of Picasso and I might like another, overall, even if it was just one little stage I loved, especially if it was a more final stage, then I could have a judgment of Picasso separate from the fact that I thought one of the stages was bullshit. All right. So, with that in mind. All right. Now, the challenge you bring is not actually one that is a hole in my philosophy at all. I've talked about this before, so you can see I'm not just making this up as I go along in response to your criticism. But when I use the word matter, the meaning is drawn from material, as in material facts, as in things that matter. Things that matter, right? And everything is matter, and if you're a materialist, so everything matters, and it becomes relativism to the rescue to relate how much they matter, right? And the way in which they matter, and their matter is continuous, as you said, yes, I believe in a principle of continuity, then we get a definition of matter. But it's all still subject, or based on, rather, our perceptions. Some of our perceptions are material. They matter. They are material facts. Some of them just don't break that threshold. They may matter. They may be part of matter. Like if you're seeing a hallucination, it matters to you, and there's a material source, your brain, and all of this stuff. And it's just that we can relate. And so the word matter and material works fine if the basis of it is material facts. And what we call substance is really just a model of something that we create a model of, okay, based on material facts. So no, there is no externality, and you can see this, for example, and let's say that we are in a matrix, and the material object, the red ball, is, there is no corresponding material thing such as it appears. The material cause is electronics in a computer generating it. Well, to me, the ball is still material. It still matters. If you drop it on your foot, it can still bruise your toe. It's a lead ball, break your toe. And so it still matters whether it has what kind of externality, or even if it has an externality. And indeed, with this view of matter, we see that even the definition of external is really taken from a subset of internal perceptions. These represent externality. And then a model that we build from those is considered to be related to the external world. But everything that's going on, the conception of that object, the material facts that we drew our model making a material from, those are all internal. So there's really no problem. Now, essence is simple. Everything is a system. Once you believe that everything is a system, it's really about atomism. Everything is a system. Every idea, every material object can always be decomposed into some system. All right. And if you believe that, then no, there is not an essence, because properties are supposed to come from these essences, qualities, and instead we have systems that generate qualities, and the qualities are not sent out from that system, but are a part of its interactions internally and with external systems, what we might call bigger, greater systems that it's a part of. But when you look into something and it is a system, then there can't be any essence, because the essence has to break down into the essences of the parts. So you only get a true essence, a traditional essence, if you believe in atomism, that at some point you break something down to its final part. Now, though there might be a smallest massive particle, those break down into energy, and energy is infinitely fungible as far as we can tell, within the realm of discreteness. So, but given relativity, that still covers everything. So, there is no essence because there is no atomic thing. The essence always keeps breaking down. And so the essence is really just a name for an idea model that we have, all of which is internal. Because though it might be a model of a material thing, that means a model that corresponds to material facts, which are a certain subset of perceptions that we filtered through. Why do we do it? Well, heuristically, we found that there are these principles we can apply of continuity. We can look at certain perceptions, file and categorize them based on their the continuity and consistency that they have, and determine whether the material phenomena is purely mental or something that seems beyond our creation of our own mentality, and do this process of categorization. At no point do we get to fundamental essences. We simply get models, and we don't know if the model is good enough. And I say, we just assume, no, it can never be perfect, so it's never good enough in itself, but it can be better or worse than another model. In other words, we have in all of these intellectual areas that we don't have the ability to know if something is good in itself, if a morality is good in itself, if it's perfectly right, and these kinds of things. We can compare to and thereby get a better one. And with our conscious cognition, we can refuse to go back to a worse one and thereby just keep ratcheting what we think is better. Now, the criteria we use to judge better is not necessarily the best criteria. So we're also improving our criteria. And eventually you get a good criteria and you follow it all the way through and it's done. It's done. And therefore, you have to invent a new criteria. Okay, so the progress is subjectively judged. Now, when we try to use materialism to think, hey, we can never get the essence, but we can spiral in until there's not much space. The essence has to be within this little area, and we can just say, it's in the center. But we did this in physics, and we spiral down, and what do we get to? The wave packet. We get to this quantum field packet. Okay, and the thing about that is that now our instruments are delicate enough to see lower than the level of discreteness. And we see that this discrete thing is something that can't be zeroed down on. You can't say, well, I know it's within here, so it's at the center. I know it's within here, so it's at a location here at all. No, it's spread out over that interval. So at the bottom, we're prohibited from saying there's an essentially correct position, and it's true of all the other properties. So that's your reply. Cheers.